You probably heard the Buffalo Bills are getting a new stadium, so let's take some time today to say goodbye to the old and hello to the new.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Well, folks, welcome in and welcome to the podcast, Joe Miller, my friend, host of the Overreaction Buffalo podcast. And he's with me today because I want to reflect on the old stadium that's in its final year, right? And then the new one that's opening up across the street. And Joe Miller has been a longtime season ticket holder. He's attended, I don't know, hundreds more Bills games than I ever have. And he's also committed to being a PSL owner at the new stadium. So there's a lot of things that I want to learn about that process and just kind of reflect and get excited. So Joe Miller, welcome in.
Well, what is going on, Joe Marino, and what is going on, Bills Mafia? It's good to be here, and it's good to talk about this. This is it's an interesting conversation and has been for a couple of years since it's been announced. And for all intents and purposes, we are full press, right? This is the last season for the Ralph, and we have one place that we're going, and that is, as you said, across the street to the new stadium. So excited to talk about it.
How do you feel? Like, let's just start there. How do you feel? How long have you've been a season ticket holder for a long time, right?
So my grandfather had tickets. I got the story just recently. I had a little bit of the conversation wrong. I got the full story from my dad not long ago that my grandfather had tickets at the Rock Pile and then got out of them and then was not a season ticket holder for, I think, 4 years, rebought in 76 at the new stadium, which was then obviously Rich Stadium. His tickets were 48-yard line because there's no seats on the 50. The visitor side, 32 rows up. And he had those seats until the stadium was reseated. And when the stadium was reseated, they took all the benches out, put in the seats, and a whole bunch of people got displaced due to seniority. And we got moved to the row one of the upper deck, or I should say they got moved to row one of the upper deck. And that was around the exact same time that my grandfather got to the point where he was too old. So whatever that was, 96, 97, somewhere around there, I can't remember exactly. But I officially bought in with my dad when my dad was like, why don't you do this with me? We'll go in halvesies. He's like, I'll own the tickets, but you can buy in half, right? I think it was 97. I became a season ticket holder with my dad. 313 row one, seats 18 and 19, which will forever. I should have a tattoo of that on my body somewhere, but I don't. And then 2 years ago, my dad, when they made the announcement for the new stadium, my dad was like, why don't you own the tickets and I'll buy in with you? And he's getting to that point now where, at 70 years old, getting to the games and cold weather games and all that kind of stuff. And appropriately enough, my daughter McKenna is she's not at the same age I was, but she's kind of rolling into that same frame of pretty soon I might be giving them to her and she'll be owning the tickets and I'll be buying in with her or something like that. So it's been a minute. So for sure.
How do you feel? I mean, obviously a lot of history for you and your family attending games. It feels like there's not a lot that's going to be different because it's across the street, but there's still a building to say goodbye to that a lot of memories have been made in. Like, what's the pulse for you?
There's good and bad, right? So, and obviously the good comes with I don't remember the exact details. You probably do. This secures the Buffalo Bills the Buffalo Bills future here in this city for the next 30 something years, which to me was important because if you go back on the Buffalo Bills message board and Bills Twitter and all that kind of stuff, I was the guy that was always fighting the narrative that Buffalo was too small of a market for an NFL football team. And if you remember, that was all throughout the drought. Like, as soon as Ralph dies, we're going to lose the Bills. Buffalo's too small. And we're not going to get into it here. If anybody wants information, I can tell you why Buffalo's not a tiny market as people say that it is. And obviously they reference that off of the television market. But the fact that the Bills' future is secure here is great. There are things that I wish they would have done differently, which I think every fan would probably say that. And I know that we're going to get into it a little bit. But there's aspects of having something glorious and something brand new and something that's going to be highlighted by the NFL. And like they're going to talk about the Bills. They're going to talk about the new stadium. They're going to talk about how beautiful you think it would happen when Minnesota got theirs. Right. So, and that big, beautiful stadium that they got up there. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to happen. I'm excited for the experience. I've been to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium when the Bills played the Jaguars 2 years ago. So I kind of know how the inside is going to feel as far as that goes, but a lot of good. And then, is there some things I would have done differently? Sure. Right.
Yeah. I think anyone would say yes to that. Or everyone didn't get their entire wish list,
right.
But I think we all got the one thing that we really wanted, which was what you started with, the long-term future of the Buffalo Bills in Western New York, and not having, it's a big part of who we are. This is one of my theories in life because I go places all the time. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. If I go to the grocery store, I'm going to see 3, 4, 5 people wearing Bill stuff. I'm going to see bumper stickers. I'm going to wear my stuff. I go to the beach. I see Bill stuff. I don't see other teams.
Oh yeah.
Because being a Buffalo Bills fan it's a character trait. It's an identifying piece of who we are. We want people to know that we love the Buffalo Bills.
That's right.
Everywhere we go, whether it's a cruise, to the Bahamas, we're vacationing in Wyoming, we are at the beach in South Carolina. We got to let you know. Got to let you know. Yep. And so it's such a connecting element of so many different people. And it's a point of pride. And the fact that there's no concern for at least whatever that term is, 30 years, whatever it is, that's where I take a lot of comfort. So whether it's open air, closed air, grass, not grass, downtown, Orchard Park, whatever details.
We got a team.
We got a stadium.
That's right.
So a lot of history we've kind of established with you and your family attending games at the current stadium. What's do you remember the first time you went in there? Can you tell us about that?
So I'm not sure which ones are first and which ones are second. I do have competing memories. I believe my first memory was a Minnesota Vikings game, and that just was coincidence that I talked about Minnesota a second ago, and now I'm talking about Minnesota again. Dad took me to a game. It was a Monday Night Football game. We sat in the end zone. I believe I looked it up at one point in time to find the final score and just to get the history of when we went. But we sat in the non-tunnel ends, the Jumbotron side, and back then it was just light bulbs, so it was like black and white, like the replay screen. And I remember being little and trying to turn around and just kind of get a feel for that football game. I also remember one time being corner end zone and throwing snowballs on the field because the Bills were so bad and it was cold outside. But yeah, I believe that Vikings game was the first game my dad ever took me to. We did not sit in my grandfather's seats at the time. Dad got tickets and we went and sat in the end zone. So,
well, that's an interesting poll. I'd imagine the Vikings haven't played in Western New York that many times. So
true, yeah. And I was able to find it. I think it was 81 or something like that, or it was super early 80s.
5 years before I was born, Joe. You were in the stadium watching Bills games. My
Show
guy.
Over. Well, ageism, pulling ageism on me already.
At some point, I had to do it. That one was so easy. I'm like, man, 81, you were in there. I don't even know if my parents knew each other at that time. So you're. A lot of memories. We kind of reflected on the first one. What about your favorite memory?
There's too many of those as well. The amount of games I've talked to Dad, we've reminisced before. So I always made it a point when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, and was still a season ticket holder to at least, and always did make it to more than one game, but at least go to the home opener. So whether it's Marshawn Lynch's first football game or the Byron Leftwich, Jaguars, we lost that game. The Jets overtime kick return for a touchdown. That they beat us on. I have, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. They all encapsulate great memories as far as that goes. I remember, and it's funny because my seat neighbors make fun of me to this day, specifically when the Bills get a little pass happy. But there was a time, I don't remember exactly. I think it was Gilbride, when Gilbride was the offensive coordinator and the Bills, we had, I don't remember who the running back was, if it was Travis Henry, but somebody.
It was Travis Henry. It was the Drew Bledsoe years, right?
I in the garage, my mother-in-law's garage, painted a giant sheet that said "Run the ball." And I took this sheet into the stadium with me, and sure enough, like I draped it straight over it because I'm in the front row, draped it straight over and down. And the Bills, obviously their staff can see my giant sheet that's painted run the ball. And it took about 3.5 seconds for security to come down and take that sheet away from me. So there's so many great memories. I remember Steve Christie. I was sitting in my grandfather's seats on the 32 row 48 yard line, and I remember it was freezing rain. We were playing the Denver Broncos, and effectively, like, he lined up to kick a game-winning field goal from there. And I remember just like he was lined up with me where I was sitting, and like I can remember the sound of the pellets of the freezing rain hitting my jacket. Right. I remember that moment. It's such a core memory of mine. And he hits the kick and we win the football game. I don't know that I was at the Cowboys' first Monday night game. Right. That was such an incredible football game that we didn't win. So it's
a lot of heartbreakers you're bringing up, Joe.
Tons. There's more. There's more as far as that. The amount we would invent ways to not win football games back in the day. I was not home for the first Bills win against the Patriots. Ryan Fitzpatrick one. I was there for the 51-3 or no 30 the Tom Brady game. It was 31-3 or 33-3 or something like that. I was there for that game, the Lawyer Milloy game, that game.
That's 31-0. And then the Bills lost to the Patriots the last week of the season. 31-0.
So my geriatric brain is getting the best of me on scores, but that was probably, as I'm going through it, I don't remember the environment. The Cowboys game, there's a couple environments where the stadium was more electric than I've ever seen it or ever heard it. When Lawyer Milloy came out of the tunnel, it was deafening. You couldn't hear anything. And then I do remember a very similar situation not long ago where Josh Young came out, Stephon Diggs came out, and like some other people. And I remember turning to my dad and I was like, there's like superstars on this football team. And my dad's like, I know, this is crazy. Like, it's hard to believe, like, the players. But anyway, yeah.
Wildest Dreams Land is
Wildest Dreams Land.
Somebody I know usually refers to that as.
Yes.
All right, coming up here in just a moment, we're going to continue our reflection on the current stadium and start to talk about the news. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. Have you ever decided at the last minute that you want to head to a ball game with your friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize that you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you'll save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you. Game Time makes it all possible. And Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to the start of the game, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. My guest today, Joe Miller of the Overreaction Buffalo podcast, longtime season ticket holder and PSL owner at the new Highmark Stadium. One last thing here on just reflecting on your experiences at the current stadium.
Yeah.
What are you going to miss most about it?
Sightlines. There's such an ease to that stadium. It's not glamorous. It's a hole in the earth, literally, as the lower bowl is in the ground. I remember having that sidebar. I remember having conversations with people that were like, oh yeah, like I've been to Buffalo before. I drove by the stadium. It's small. I was like, it's not small. I was like, it used to be one of the biggest stadiums in the league, but the lower bowl is in the ground, so you can't see it. And then having that subsequent argument with people on why the stadium couldn't be renovated later in life. But anyways, so there's an ease to getting in and out for me. And I don't even mean the drive in. And this is storied. I've told the story, I think, even to you on shows before. Like, when the game's over, once I get to my truck, I'm home in 18 minutes. Like, I can get in and out quick. But even getting in and out of the stadium in general, like getting to my seat, like super easy. The sight line, the people around me, I've known for decades as far as that goes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to miss a lot of that stuff. It's going to take some getting used to. It's when you go to a foreign stadium and you're like looking for the scoreboard, or you're looking for the play clock, or you're looking for the down and distance. As far as that goes, there's just it's home. It's got a homey feeling to it. And I didn't necessarily want a new stadium just because I was afraid of what was going to happen as it pertained to my sightline, because I'm there for the purity of the football game. I go to Bills games to watch football. I like for until podcast things happen, I didn't tailgate ever. Like never once had I ever tailgated until like people were like, "Oh, you should come to my tailgate, or you should show up early, or can you make an appearance?" Like that's when that stuff and I started making Bills friends. Twitter was a big part of that. So for me, the purity of the football game was all that was important. And I had gone to other stadiums before, the Bengals stadium, where you look over the rail and there's like 2,000 people down in like a gathering area drinking beer, not paying attention to the football game. And I'm just like, why are you even like, there's go to a bar and drink for 3 hours and save yourself a whole lot of money. So I think for me, the purity, like that was my biggest fear with the new stadium, was just losing the purity of being able to watch, get in, get out, watch football. Obviously everybody has different reasons why they go to football games. My whole life, it's always been about the football game. That was the reason we were there. So it was never about a party or anything like that, which if that's what it is for other people, that's great. Like you do you. That's just how it was for us. So
I know what you mean about the people around you that you normally would sit next to probably for years and years and years. I've never been a Bills season ticket holder, but for 5 consecutive years, I was a season ticket holder for the Charlotte Bobcats. And you just started to get to know the people around you, and you connect with them. They start to find out what's going on in your life. And, you know, I certainly missed that when I stopped going to, or stopped being a season ticket holder for the Charlotte Bobcats.
Yep.
So
the good news is the 3 guys that sit next to me on my right are still next to me. Tom, we all text each other. He texted me because he asked me if I got my tickets, and I said yes. I said where, or he said where. And then as they went through their process, luckily enough, as luck would have it, they got the seats. So they're still sitting next to us. But I think they're the only ones. I haven't heard from anybody else. But yeah,
cool. Well, at least you got something carrying over.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Do you put much thought or consideration into how the new stadium will make like the experience different of attending a Bills game? A lot of traditions, a lot of things that happen at the old stadium. Are you worried about they're just having a different feel when you get across the street?
No. I mean, the only feel that I would be worried about as far as that goes, and I don't know if this is, if it pertains to your question or how it resonates with your question, is just the in-game experience. Obviously they've built the stadium for less wind, less weather. I am still in the upper deck in the 300 section, row 1. We are not necessarily, like the awning is like at our feet as far as that goes, but we're on the east side. So the wind's going to blow into our faces. So we're still probably going to be subject to the wind, but they built it like to hold the sound into the stadium, which our stadium is loud. But you know, one of my biggest fears when they were building a new stadium, or when the conversation was going around about needing a new stadium, is I didn't want a palace for rich people. I wanted a football experience. I didn't want them to build something that was going to price out the everyday fan. And it doesn't feel like it has. However, to your question, the only thing that I'm concerned about is those center sections of clubs. And are they going to be all business? Have you ever been to a Colts game? That's the best thing that I can do is ask you that question.
I've never been to a Colts game. No.
If you go to a Colts game, people are more interested in drinking their beer and sitting there than they generally are about kind of like what's happening on the field. It's just like Lucas Oil is a beautiful stadium, but like the RCA Dome, like those fans were a little bit out of their mindish, if that makes any sense. They would lose their minds. And when you go to a Colts game now, it's just a little less. And I think that's more of what I'm concerned about. I mean, right now the fans are incredible and I want that same experience. So that's probably the concern I have, is that part. There's no other traditions necessarily. I think the legend of the game thing will come and go, and flyovers will hopefully get, and someday they'll time them right, because I don't think they've ever timed one right at our stadium, but it's just one of those things.
What excites you? You got a new stadium coming across the street. Like, is there a single thing about it other than that it's happening that gets you excited?
Yeah, the newness. I mean, we are going to be there. As much as you hear people on television, the announcers, "Oh, beautiful Orchard Park, New York," you're still going to get that. But now it's going to be, I mean, they're going to frame this stadium. The NFL likes to promote brand new stadiums. We're going to get a lot of press and a lot of publicity about that, which is going to bring even more attention to the Buffalo Bills, which is great. And I'm excited for the newness. I'm excited for discovering places around it. I'm excited for the food is going to be better, and the food is going to be different, which is great.
Are we sure? Are we getting the, well, the Lenova's thing just drives me nuts. Whoever thinks they're making Lenova's pizza at the current Highmark Stadium has lost their minds. What is, and you know what the thing about it is, I wouldn't say every time, I keep falling for it. I keep going up to that concession stand and getting the Lenova's pizza, thinking I'm going to get an actual slice of Lenova's pizza, and then I'm like, why did I do this to myself? It's horrible.
Is Lenova's going to be there? Because
I don't know, but when you said food and stadium, that's all I could possibly think
Jeremy
about.
Jacobs and Delaware North is out, right? So Legends is now going to be the food provider, which is Jerry Jones, his organization. So my understanding is the food choices are going to be spectacular now versus what they've been in the past. Okay. And I would agree with you. The best upgrade they've done in the food thing for our current stadium is just the way that they have worked the lines. They've done a good job with facilitating getting in and out of those lines pretty quickly. But I'm excited about food choices. I don't eat a ton of the food at the stadium now just because it's way overpriced. But I mean, like, give me something to buy that's worth buying, and I'll buy it, right? Or at least give it a shot. But all the newness, there's a newness and a freshness. I wish I could be in some of the cooler, more elaborate places, some of the club sections, some of the private bars, some of the interior places. But I'm excited to see my seats for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot that excites me about the new stadium. I think it looks awesome. The Buffalo statue,
the grass is going to be cool, right?
That's what I was getting to. Is the grass field? I just feel like the players are going to love that, and that makes me happy. But I don't know. I like watching football games on grass. I like seeing grass stains on jerseys. Like, I don't know. That's cool to me.
It's what's supposed to
happen. I like
seeing
a little mud, And I'm also kind of fascinated to see like the maintenance of the grounds and what does that field look like? Do they keep it up? Because there's some grass fields out there that get real dicey, but I don't think it's going to be overused to the point where you worry about kind of what happens in Pittsburgh, because there's a college team and a pro team there. Miami, it's always a mess.
Kansas City is usually pretty dark in the wintertime too.
Yeah, so well, even like Lambeau in Green Bay.
Yep.
The Lambeau field in September compared to December looking pretty different. So
it's painted in December. It's not even really grass at that point.
Sometimes, but I'm curious, like what is our aesthetic, right? There's a new aesthetic that's going to exist with the Buffalo Bills that I'm really interested in. I'm so used to it having a certain look and feel.
Yep.
And now it's going to be different, and I'm curious to see what that looks like.
I think it's going to be better. I think it's going to feel 1973 versus 2026. I think that's going to be a very immediate. Oh, we've advanced into the future, right? So
that's a heck of a way to frame it. I'm curious to see what that actually means. All right, coming up next, Joe Miller is a PSL owner at the new stadium. I want to find out what that process is like. So, folks, be sure to stick with us. I'm joined today by Joe Miller of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, good friend of mine. Also, John Fina, Jerry Ostrowski, who's with me here on Bill Squad. They do a lot of great content that you should be following. And Joe, you are a PSL owner. You've done this process, which it feels like I feel like there's been a couple of years now, people going through this process of securing their PSLs. And it feels like the conversations have really shifted compared to when the initial people went through to like maybe the more recent. I don't know exactly when you took care of yours, but what was that process like for you?
So backing up, it feels like the Bills heard the community, and so there was very grave concern about how expensive they were going to be. A lot of rumors out there, and there was even some early kind of like, would you pay this much? It's like, no, definitely not. So, and I feel like early on there was a lot of like people that were upset at the numbers as far as that goes. Going into the process, I was very much and I told my dad, because I'm in charge of the tickets, I'm not committed. I'm not convinced. I'm not going in all in regardless, because the truth of the situation is if you pay $10,000 for a PSL per seat in 10 years, when Josh Allen is no longer a Buffalo Bill because he's retired and, with 3 championships and is on his way to the Hall of Fame, and the Bills aren't good anymore, recouping that money is going to be almost impossible. And the reality is yes, I'm considering my future more than just the right now and the experiences that I have now. And my dad agreed. He was like, you're right. He goes, I'm not convinced either. Let's go through it and see what happens. So we originally got offered the 400 level, which was supposed to be like for like. It was not. You're going to be closer to the field and yada, yada, yada. And it was not. It was higher and farther away, which was a great concern of mine. The PSL was, I think, $2,500 per seat, but the tickets were cheaper per season for the season than my current seats. Row 1 of the upper deck, if you're between, I think, the 10s or the 15s, you are in premium seating. So you actually are paying similar prices to what the lower bowl, like in that section, are paying. And then they offered us 338 row one. So which is there's 4 seat levels that come down off the 400 level that kind of hang over. I was hoping that they would have their own kind of concession areas and stuff like that. They don't. They share with the 400 level, which is fine. I was just hoping for an amenity. The PSLs I think were double, and the ticket prices were double as well. So it was just kind of an easy look. We'll do this, and then I think the expectation is we're going to sell, probably 2, 3, 4 of our games a season, because I'm also getting to the point now we're going to 9 games a year, 8 games a year, and if I travel like another game, it gets to be a lot, right? So. So we kind of have an idea of what we want to do to kind of offset some of those costs, but we're excited to be there. The process was great. We went to the whole Bills experience thing. They tried to get us in. It's funny, dude, because early on there was, and I lost my mind too. Sorry if I'm dragging this answer out. I lost my mind at first too, because they were like, oh, we're going to start with the lower bowl and work to the end zones. And I was like, hold up. What do you mean you're going to work to the end zones? Because when it comes to seniority, everything has always been seniority as it pertains to the stadium, COVID, getting playoff tickets, all that kind of stuff. And I was trying to get a hold of the person that was my rep at the time and could not get through. Finally got a hold of him, and he had Googled me before he called me. And I don't necessarily know why, but then found out about overreaction. And at the time, Buffalo Rumblings, it was like, he's like, are you a podcaster? And I was like, yes. He's like, so I need to make sure that you stay happy. And I was like, probably, which I thought was funny because he realized that I had an audience. As it worked out, you couldn't buy outside of your section, which I was okay with. So if nobody can buy if somebody from a club can't be like, I don't want to pay for clubs, I'd rather be in row 1 of the upper deck. If that was allowed to happen, that's where I was going to drive down to One Bills Drive and like have a conversation with somebody, probably a futile conversation, but you know what I'm saying, nonetheless. But that's not what it was. If you don't want your like for like, and we were offered the same thing, this is it. You can have this row 1 of the 400, or because you're in row 1 of the 300. If you don't want either of those seats, you're out. You're done. Like there's no other place you can go until this process is done. They bring you in, they sit you in the seats, which the seats are great. They show you like the cool rendering of the stadium, like the scale model of the stadium, which it looks a lot like I said, like Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They show you the wind deflecting outside exterior of the building, which who knows if that's going to work. I'll trust the science, right? If you
right. Wind confusion, right?
Until we get there, and then I'm like the wind's blistering my face and bothering the football. But no, the experience was great. The rep that we ended up having, there was no pressure in it as far as that goes. It was they very much took into account our seniority as far as that goes. They treated us like, oh, you guys have been here since 76. So you're important to us. You are the people that we want to renew and we want you to stay in the stadium. It was a great experience overall. And at this point I am excited about, seeing how this whole thing pans out. So I'm excited to get to my seat the first day. So that's what I'm excited for.
Let me ask you this. This is like just a very Joe Marino, I'm curious type question.
Sure.
Whenever I look at renderings of the stadium, some of the seats are red, some of them are blue, and there doesn't appear to be any rhyme or reason to it. And it's really scattered. Like what is that? Why does it look that way?
I asked this question, and they are going to literally do that in the new stadium. And I don't remember what the answer. I think it was just aesthetic. I think it's just what they wanted to do to kind of make the stadium look kind of cool versus all one color seat. But at the end of the day, I did ask that question. So like somebody's going to have to okay, 3 reds and then a blue, 2 reds and then 2 blues.
You pick the color? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm not picking. I asked them if like the installers were going to have.
Yeah, like what? There doesn't appear to be any rhyme or reason. It's not even gradient. It's just random.
Yeah, it's just random. And he said, nope, that's what's going to happen. Like literally they're going to have to make sure that which seems to me like it would slow the process down quite a bit. But I don't know that there's a reason for it outside.
I wonder if there's patches where maybe there's a row, like people are not in their seats. Does it maybe show up better? It doesn't look like there's missing people. Like there's got to be a good reason for this. That's a choice, Joe. That's a choice.
It's definitely a choice. I mean, red and blue, it is going to give that effect that people are still in their seats, right? We have all blue and then the silverback benches. So when people aren't in the benches, you can see nobody's there, right?
Right.
So,
all right. Well, I guess I'm no closer to an answer there, but I'm glad somebody else had the question. I'm like, am I the only one that thinks this is a little bit weird? I guess I don't really care. I just want to know the reason.
I think I asked the question of why they didn't do a graphic with it. Like, if you're going to do it, why didn't you do a graphic? Like, obviously Seattle has the 12 in whites.
Sure.
And I don't remember
The
exactly.
Eagles have an eagle. There's an actual eagle up in one of the spots. Yeah,
right.
I fly over that stadium all the time. I see that.
And I think I think there was an answer that they didn't want to get that technical with it, so they just kind of smattered them.
So we'll just pull random ones out of the box, and wherever they go is where they go.
Pretty much, yes.
Anything overlooked? You've had the experience. You've thought a lot about this. Is there any like key detail that you think was missed in this?
How long do we have?
Gosh, boy, I didn't expect you to have that many things to say.
So at the end of the day, I mean, the reality is there's people think differently, and for me,
Sure.
I want common sense to prevail in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of common sense that I feel like was potentially missed based off the history of the past and what they feel like. And Buffalo, and if you're on my Twitter, you've seen me tweet it, Buffalonians feel like we don't deserve good things. And that's just how we feel because of the area, because of the snow, because of the weather, because of all these things. We don't deserve nice things at times. You look at our waterfront, you look at the development, you look at the politics and everything else. If you've been to Foxborough, and I'm not saying that we needed to build Foxborough, but Foxborough is 45 minutes from Boston, and you get there, there's a hospital, there's a mall, there's restaurants, there's hotels around it. There's all of this stuff around it where they have events and they have conventions and they do all of these things to effectively bring prosperity to the area, enrich the stadium, enrich the quality of life of the people that are going to be around it and use it, and just make the whole thing at $2 billion for us, not for them. $2 billion makes sense. How can we make this whole entire thing make sense in a smaller market, right? It's not the smallest, but it's a smaller market. That how can we make it all make sense? And I just feel like it was a big miss versus a 320-foot stadium in the middle of a field in Orchard Park. And I get it. Well, the people in Orchard Park didn't want it. Great. So you tell them, if you don't want this, we'll move the stadium someplace else. And all the income tax, like the county income tax, the revenue for your school systems is going to go to Clarence, or it's going to go downtown. I bet you they change their mind real fast. Anyways, I'm getting on a soapbox that I don't want to be on. And how the heck, Joe Marino, do you not dome this thing? I get it. We want the elements. We want the gold,
Joe Miller. We can fight about this.
It just, when you talk about justifying the cost of a stadium like that, I get the hometown feel. I get the football thing. I get the home, some of the home field advantage stuff that doesn't seem to weigh as strong as it used to. But when it comes to making it make sense at $2 billion, you need to use the stadium over and over. Luke Combs came to Buffalo. I was there, did a 2-day conference in the stadium. The current one sold it out. Night 2, Saturday night, it was 44 degrees outside. The stadium was full, but still, what if he did it in January with a dome and it was warm, like inside the building? How much more use? There's this idea, this notion, and I know you want to say something. There's this idea, this notion that it's like, oh, you're only going to use it 8 times. You don't have to. Stadiums get used more than that all the time. So
I just listened to you talk about the primary reason for the stadium being watching a football
Sundays.
game. My guy, get out of here for January concerts.
On Sundays.
Come on now.
On Sundays. No, I want the game day experience to be about football. That's what I want the game day experience to be. On Friday night in February, or on a weekend or a week, bring conferences here. You know what happens if you have a stadium like that and you have the ability to bring trade shows, conferences, all kinds of stuff to that stadium? You get hotels. You know what happens when you have a brand new stadium and hotels? You get a Super Bowl. Like, that's the reason that we don't have a Super Bowl, is because we don't have hotels.
There's not the infrastructure, right?
Right. So it feels like a huge miss. And I get the football purist part of it. I like to be there when it's cold.
I like inviting Tua Tagovailoa up for games in December. I want them to know that if they don't win the AFC East and they have to play the Buffalo Bills in January, it's going to be cold and snowy, and those South Florida boys have to come up and deal with it.
So open the roof, even though nobody ever opens the roof of their stadium. Make a stadium that you can open the roof. But regardless, make it make sense for January, February, March, April, and May, right? I mean, you can. I feel like I just feel like they could have done better there in that plan. And I know it is what it is. I don't even care about it. Can stay in Orchard Park. I'm fine with that. But you're talking about a city, 2 cities, Niagara Falls and Buffalo, that for 70 years both had a convention center. Like, you're 20 minutes apart. Why are you fighting? Why are you competing against each other with convention centers? And obviously the Senecas took over the Niagara Falls Convention Center and put the casino there, which helped the Buffalo Convention Center. And I know that I know there's a lot involved, but sometimes you got to kill something old to get something better, right?
Luke Combs was there. Garth Brooks was there. George Strait and Chris Stapleton were just there.
Yeah. Right. So, but I mean, imagine if we did those things in February.
But you don't have to. If you want to do it in Buffalo, you better do it June, July, or August.
Well, yeah, or April, late April, which Luke Combs did. It was it was an experience. It was freaking fantastic. It was awesome. And to me, it proves that the stadium is viable in the wintertime, right? If there's something, if you can warm it up, which at this point you can't, but it is what it
Maybe
is.
the NFL draft will be there. Bills are putting their bid, and that'd be cool, right?
That would be very cool. Again, you're still going to have the problem that there's no hotels in proximity to the stadium, right? The closest ones are Camp Road in Hamburg. So people are going to have to drive. But yes, I won't have to drive. But yeah, that would be awesome. I would expect that to happen, wouldn't you? I mean,
this is going to go down. Like you said, the NFL likes to showcase their new buildings.
Yeah.
Buffalo's been waiting patiently. It's the exact type of town that you want to be in. They've had it in it's going to be in Pittsburgh this coming year.
Green Bay,
Detroit.
right? It was just in Green Bay.
Green Bay. It's been in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Buffalo is perfect, and I love that. I mean, maybe Buffalo's never going to get a Super Bowl, but come on, we can get the NFL draft, and I think it's going to be an absolute scene. I was there in Nashville when it was there.
Yeah.
And the whole time, all I thought about is, my goodness, if this is in Western New York, it's going to be a scene like no other.
It's a great nod to those stadiums in those cities that can't host Super Bowls. I would agree with that. So it's a great thing. It's just a great thing. And obviously we're losers when it comes to football. Like we embrace and soak up every opportunity to be around the game and the sport that we can. So the draft is no different as far as that goes. It'll be great.
Well, Joe Miller, thanks for doing this, man.
Sorry for my soapbox.
No, you're good. I mean, that's part of the deal, man. You're a podcaster. It's what we do. We get on soapboxes. But I talked to you in the pre-show, and I said, look, there's a lot to reflect on with this stadium that's coming, that's going, and I needed someone else to come in and have this conversation. So I appreciate you making yourself available and delivering some really cool insight.
Yeah. I appreciate being here. It's always a pleasure and an honor to be asked by you to be on one of your shows. So yes, thank you.
I appreciate you, my friend. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.